Boom! I'm Thundercloud here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Well, today I've been really lucky, and my friend Steve from the tip shop in Armidale came up and gave me this record amongst some others, and it's a poetry record. It's the Poetry of Wordsworth, read by Sir Cedric Hardwick, directed by Howard O. Sackler, and it was published by the Caedmon literary series. It's TC 1026 is its catalogue number, and it was published in 1957. So just before I play it, so we've got on side one, I'll read you out the titles. We've got composed upon Westminster Bridge, the 3rd of September 1802. Strange fits of passion have I known. I travelled among unknown men. Tintern Abbey. Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free. The solitary reaper. The world is too much with us. That's side one, and I'll read side two out to you when I go to play it and turn the record over. I'll read to you the blurb on the back of this as well. So, hearing oftentimes the still music of humanity, Wordsworth sang the poetry of humanity and made his name immortal. In our tongue there are no purer poems, no more shimmering image of love than his. And those who ridicule his later years when he could no longer hear the music lack love. The Greeks would have understood how a man might surrender himself to the muse until all had been said. For a period of some 13 years, while in his 20s and 30s, Wordsworth was held in the grip of inspiration. It was not that he had failed to see and feel intensely before then, even as a boy. Playing among English lakes and mountainsides, he had formed with nature a relationship to intimate that he came to catalyse nature, almost as though he had been taken by the hand. But at college, when he attempted to express himself in writing, nothing came right in the 18th century standard style. What actually triggers inspiration, that sudden combustion of deepest feeling and profoundest skill in expression, must remain mysterious, although poets have confessed stimuli ranging from opium to rotten apples. For Wordsworth, the compelling force seems to have been closeness, physical or mental, with another great spirit. Coleridge was the most profound influence. He came looking for Wordsworth, having discovered his descriptive sketches. He took tea with him and his sister, Dorothy, in their cottage, and afterwards Wordsworth wrote, "Coleridge is the most wonderful man I ever met." That was the beginning of a momentous lyrical ballads, 4 poems by Coleridge, the rest by Wordsworth, and the entire romantic movement of English poetry. Stirred by the exciting originality of Coleridge, Wordsworth fairly surrendered himself to the creative instinct, and the poems which came were so pure that one can only wonder at their abundance. But Coleridge had set the vital current flowing. There were probably many other combustive shocks when contact with genius shook more poems loose. We know of one time in 1801, the afternoon, Wordsworth's sister read to him the sonnets of Milton. He knew them. They had long been part of his heritage, but now as he wrote, I took fire. If I may be allowed to say so, and produced 3 sonnets that afternoon, the first I ever wrote, except an irregular one at school. And of course, in the course of time, came from him 2 unimaginably perfect sonnets that composed upon Westminster Bridge, 1802, and in 1806, The World is Too Much With Us. If Wordsworth later lost Coleridge, lost his youthful ardour for freedom, lost the muse whispering in his soul, what shall we do but mourn for him as we mourn for Keats, Byron and Thomas, who also died young? And now, the poetry of William Wordsworth, read by Sir Cedric Hardwick. This first one, composed upon Westminster Bridge, September 3, 1802.
Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now does like a garment wear the beauty of the moment, silent, there. Ships, towers, domes, theatres and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Nest deep in his first splendour of valley, rock or hill, ne'er saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at its own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, but all that mighty heart is lying still. Strange fits of passion have I known, and I will dare to tell but in the lover's ear alone what once to me befell. When she I loved looked every day fresh as a rose in June, I to her cottage bent my way beneath an evening moon. Upon the moon I fixed my eye all over the wide lea. With quickening pace my horse drew nigh those paths so dear to me. And now we reached the orchard plot, and as we climbed the hill, the sinking moon to lose his cot came near and nearer still. In one of those sweet dreams I slept, kind nature's gentlest boon, and all the while my eyes I kept on the descending moon. My horse moved on, hoof after hoof he raised and never stopped, and down behind the cottage roof the bright moon dropped. What fond and wayward thoughts will slide into a lover's head? Oh, mercy to myself, I cried, if Lucy should be dead. I travelled among unknown men in lands beyond the sea, nor England did I know till then what love I bore to thee. 'Tis past that melancholy dream, nor will I quit thy shore a second time, for still I seem to love thee more and more. Among thy mountains did I feel the joy of my desire, and she I cherished turned her wheel beside an English fire. Thus sealed the bowers where Lucy played, and thine too is the last green field that Lucy's eyes surveyed. 5 years have passed, 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters, and again I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs with a soft inland murmur. Once again do I behold these steep and lofty cliffs that on a wild secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion, and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. The day is come when I again repose here under this dark sycamore and view these plots of cottage ground, these orchard tufts, which at this season with their unripe fruits are clad in one greeny hue and lose themselves mid groves and copses. Once again I see these hedgerows, hardly hedgerows, little lines of sportive wood run wild. These pastoral farms green to the very door, and wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees, with some of vagrant dwellers in the houseless woods, or of some hermit's cave where by his fire the hermit sits alone. These beauteous forms, through a long absence, have not been to me as is a landscape to blind man's eye, but oft in lonely rooms and mid the din of towns and cities, I have owed to them in hours of weariness sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart, and passing even into my pure mind with tranquil restoration, feelings too of unremembered pleasure, such perhaps as have no slight or trivial influence on that best portion of a good man's life, his little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. No less I trust to them I may have owed another gift of aspect more sublime, that blessed mood in which the burden of the mystery, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened. That serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on, until the breath of this corporeal frame and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body and become a living soul, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. If this be but a vain belief, yet oh, how oft in darkness and amid the many shapes of joyless daylight, when the fretful stir unprofitable and the fever of the world have hung upon the beatings of my heart, how oft in spirit have I turned to thee, O sylvan Wye, thou wanderer through the woods, how often has my spirit turned to thee. Now with gleams of half-extinguished thought, with many recognitions dim and faint and somewhat of a sad perplexity, the picture of the mind revives again, while here I stand not only with the sense of present pleasure, but with pleasing thoughts that in this moment there is life and food for future years. And so I dare to hope, though changed no doubt from what I was when first I came among these hills, when like a roe I bounded o'er the mountains by the sides of the deep rivers and the lonely streams, where more like a man flying from something that he dreads than one who sought the thing he loved. For nature then, the coarser pleasures of my boyish days and their glad animal movements all gone by, to me was all in all. I cannot paint what then I was. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain and the deep and gloomy wood, their colours and their forms were then to me an appetite, a feeling and a love that has no need of a remoter charm by thought supplied, nor any interest unborrowed from the eye. That time is past, and all its aching joys are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. Not for this faint eye, nor mourn, nor murmur, other gifts have followed. For such loss I would believe abundant recompense. For I have learned to look on nature, not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still, sad music of humanity, nor harsh, nor grating, though of ample power to chasten and subdue. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, the round ocean, the living air, the blue sky, and in the mind of man. A motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. Therefore am I still a lover of the meadows and the woods and mountains, of all that we behold from this green earth, of all the mighty world of eye and ear, both what they half create and what perceive, well pleased to recognize in nature and the language of the sense the anchor of my purest thoughts, the nurse, the guide, the guardian of my heart and soul, of all my moral being. Nor perchance if I were not thus taught, should I the more suffer my genial spirits to decay? For thou art with me here on the banks of this fair river, thou my dearest friend, my dear, dear friend. And in thy voice I catch the language of my former heart, and read my former pleasures in the shooting lights of thy wild eyes. Oh, yet a little while may I behold in thee what I was once, my dear, dear sister. And this prayer I make, knowing that nature never did betray the heart that loved her. 'Tis her privilege through all the years of this our life to lead from joy to joy. For she can so inform the mind that is within us, so impress with quietness and beauty, and so feed with lofty thoughts, that neither evil tongues, rash judgments, nor the sneers of selfish men, nor greetings where no kindness is, nor all the dreary intercourse of daily life shall e'er prevail against us or disturb our cheerful faith, that all which we behold is full of blessings. Therefore let the moon shine on thee in thy solitary walk, and let the misty mountain winds be free to blow against thee. And in after years, when these wild ecstasies shall be matured into a sober pleasure, when thy mind shall be a mansion for all lovely forms, thy memory be as a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies, oh then, if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy wilt thou remember me, and these my exhortations. Nor perchance if I should be where I can no more hear thy voice, nor catch from thy wild eyes these gleams of past existence, wilt thou then forget that on the banks of this delightful stream we stood together, and that I, so long a worshipper of nature, hither came, unwearied in that service, rather say, with warmer love. Oh, with far deeper zeal of holier love. Nor wilt thou then forget that after many wanderings, many years of absence, these steep woods and lofty cliffs and this green pastoral landscape were to me more dear, both for themselves and for thy sake. Nuns fret not at their convent's narrow room, and hermits are contented with their cells, and students with their pensive citadels. Maids at the wheel, the weaver at his loom, sit blithe and happy. Bees that soar for bloom high as the heights speak of furnace fells, nor murmur by the hour in foxglove bells. In truth, the prison into which we doom ourselves no prison is, and hence for me in sundry moods 'twas pastime to be bound within the sonnet's scanty plot of ground. Pleased if some soul, for such their needs must be, who have felt the weight of too much liberty, should find brief solace there, as I have found. It is a beauteous evening, calm and free. The holy time is quiet as a nun, breathless with adoration. The broad sun is sinking down in his tranquility. The gentleness of heaven broods o'er the sea. Listen. The mighty being is awake, and doth with his eternal motion make a sound like thunder, everlasting. Dear child, dear girl that walkest with me here, if thou appear untouched by solemn thought, thy nature is not therefore less divine. Thou liest in Abraham's bosom all the year, and worshipst at the temple's inner shrine, God being with thee when we know it not. Behold her, single in the field, yon solitary hired lass, reaping and singing by herself. Stop here, or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain, and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travellers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling ne'er was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old unhappy far-off things from battles long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today, some natural sorrow, loss, or pain that has been and may be again? Whatever the theme the maiden sang as if her song could have no ending, I saw her singing at her work and all the sickle bending. I listened, motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more. The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything we are out of tune, it moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan subtle in a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that will make me less forlorn. Have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn.
Okay, wasn't that beautiful? Now for side 2. Don't forget, if you're liking this and while I'm reading this out, you can give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And don't forget to click on the little bell thing for notifications about new videos as I put them up there. So side 2, this is what we're going to be listening to. 1. My heart leaps up when I behold. The next one. Ode, Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. Next, and the final one is a 2-part one. The Prelude, or Growth of a Poet's Mind, Book 1st, 288 to 354. Oh, many a time have I, a 5 years child, 416 to 463 in November days. And book 5th, page 57 to 139, while I was seated in a rocky cave.
My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began. So is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, The earth to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her, and the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sun shines a glorious birth. Yet I know, where'er I go, that there hath passed away a glory. Now while the birds thus sing a joyous song, while the young lambs bound to the tabor's sound, to me alone there came a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I again am strong. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me from the fields of sleep, and all the earth is gay. Land and sea give themselves up to jollity, and with a heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou child of joy, shouldst thou happy shepherd boy, ye bless, eat which other make. Unbelief, my heart is at your festival, my fullness of your bliss I feel it all. All while earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side in the fresh flowers, while the sun shines warm and the babe leaps up in his mother's arm, I hear with joy, I hear. But there's a tree of many, one, a single field which I have looked upon. Both of them speak of something that is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the vision of Italy? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our own. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy, but he sees it in his joy. The youth who daily farther from the east must travel still is nature's priest, and but way attended. At length the man perceives it die away, fade into the light of common day. Earth fills her lap with pleasures of her own, yearning she hath in her own natural kind, and even with something of a mother's mind, and no unworthy aim. The homely nurse doth all she can to make her foster child, her inmate man, forget the glories he hath known, and that imperial palace whence he came. Behold a child among his newborn blisses, a 6 years darling of a pygmy size. See where mid work of his own hand he lies, fretted by his sallies of his mother's kisses, with light upon him from his father's eyes. See at his feet some little plan or chart, some fragment from his dream of human life, shaped by himself with newly learned art. A wedding or a festival, a mourning or a funeral, and this hath now his heart, and unto this he frames his song. Then will he fit his tongue to dialogues of business, love, or strife, but it will not be long ere this be thrown aside, and with new joy and pride the little actor cons another part, filling from time to time his humorous stage with all the persons down to palsied age that life brings with her in her equipage, as if his whole vocation were endless imitation. Thou, whose exterior semblance doth belie thy soul's immensity, thou, best philosopher, who yet dost keep thy heritage, thou eye among the blind, the deaf and silent, reads the eternal deep, haunted forever by the eternal mind. Mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave. Thou over whom thy immortality broods like day, a master or a slave, a presence which is not to be put by. Thou little child, yet glorious in the might of heaven-born freedom of thy being's height. Why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke, thus bright, with thy blessedness and strife? Full soon thy soul shall have her earthly freight, and custom lie upon thee with a weight heavy as frost, deep almost as life. O joy, that in our embers is something that doth live, that nature yet remembers what was so fugitive. The thought of our past years in me doth breed perpetual benediction. Not indeed for that which is most worthy to be blessed, delight and liberty, the simple creed of childhood, whether busy or at rest, with new-fledged hope still fluttering in his breast. Not for these I raise the song of thanks and praise, but for those obstinate questionings of sense and outward things, fallings from us, vanishings, bled about in worlds not realized, high instincts before which our mortal nature did tremble like a guilty thing surprised. But for those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which be they what they may, are yet the fountain light of all our day, are yet a master light of all our seeing, uphold us, cherish, and have power to make our noisy years seem moments in the being of the eternal silence. Truths that wait to perish never, which neither listlessness nor mad endeavor, nor man nor boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy, can utterly abolish or destroy. Hence in a season of calm weather, though inland far we be, our souls have sight of that immortal sea which brought us hither, can in a moment travel thither, and see the children sport upon the shore, and hear the mighty waters rolling evermore. Then sing, ye birds, sing, sing a joyous song, and let the young lambs bound as for the tabor's sound. We in thought will join your throng, ye that through your hearts today feel the gladness of the May. What though the radiance which was once so bright be now forever taken from my sight? Though not blended with grass of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind, in the primal sympathy which having been must ever be, in the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through death, in years that bring the philosophic mind. And O ye fountains, meadows, hills, and groves, forebode not any severing of our loves. Yet in my heart of hearts I feel your might. I only have relinquished one delight, to live beneath your more habitual sway. I love the brooks which down their channels fret, even more than when I trip lightly as they. The innocent brightness of a newborn day is lovely yet. The clouds that gather round the setting sun do take a sober colouring from an eye that hath kept watch for man's mortality. Another race hath been, and other palms are won. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears, to me the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. Oh, many a time have I, a 5 years child, in a small mill race severed from his stream, made one long bathing of a summer's day, basked in the sun, and plunged and basked again, alternate, on a summer's day, or scoured the sandy fields, leaping through flowery groves of yellow ragwort, or when rock and hill, the woods and distant Skirror's lofty height were bronze with deepest radiance, stood alone beneath the sky, as if I had been born on Indian plains, and from my mother's hut had run abroad in wantonness to sport a naked savage in the thunder shower. Fair seed time had my soul, and I grew up fostered alike by beauty and by fear, much favoured in my birthplace, and no less in that beloved vale to which ere long we were transplanted. There were we let loose for sports of wider range. Ere I had told 10 birthdays, when among the mountain slopes frost and the breath of frosty wind had snapped the last autumnal crocus, 'twas my joy with stores of springed o'er my shoulders hung, to range the open heights where woodcocks run along the smooth green turf. Through half the night, scudding away from snare to snare, I plied their anxious visitation. Moon and stars were shining on my head. I was alone, and seemed to be a trouble to the peace that dwelt among them. Sometimes it befell in these night wanderings that a strong desire overpowered my better reason, and the bird which was the captive of another's toil became my prey. And when the deed was done, I heard among the solitary hills low breathings going after me, and sounds of undistinguishable motion, steps almost as silent as the turf they trod. Nor less when spring had warmed the cultured vale, moved we as plunderers where the mother bird had in high places built her lodge. Though mean our object and inglorious, yet the end was not ignoble. Oh, when I have hung above the raven's nest by knots of grass and half-inch fissures in the slippery rock, but ill sustained, and almost so it seemed suspended by the blast that blew amain, shouldering the naked crag, oh, at that time out of the perilous ridge I hung alone, with what strange utterance did the loud dry wind blow through my ear. The sky seemed not a sky of earth, and with what motion moved the clouds. Dust as we are, the immortal spirit grows like harmony in music. There is a dark, inscrutable workmanship that reconciles discordant elements, makes them cling together in one society. How strange that all the terrors, pains, and early miseries, regrets, vexations, lassitudes interfused within my mind, should e'er have borne a part, and that a needful part, in making up the calm existence that is mine when I am worthy of myself. Praise to the end. Thanks to the means which nature deigned to employ, whether her fearless visitings or those that came with soft alarm, like hurtless light opening the peaceful clouds. In November days, when vapors rolling down the valley made a lonely scene more lonesome among woods, at noon, amid the calm of summer nights, when by the margin of the trembling lake beneath the gloomy hills homeward I went in solitude, such intercourse was mine. Mine was it in the fields, both day and night, and by the waters all the summer long. And in the frosty season, when the sun was set and visible for many a mile, the cottage windows blazed through twilight gloom, I heeded not their summons. Happy time it was indeed for all of us. For me it was a time of rapture. Clear and loud the village clock tolled 6. I wheeled about, proud and exulting like an untired horse that cares not for his home. All shod with steel, we hissed along the polished ice in games confederate, imitative of the chase and woodland pleasures. The resounding horn, the pack loud chiming in the hunted hare. So through the darkness and the cold we flew, and not a voice was idle. With the din smitten, the precipices rang aloud. The leafless trees and every icy crag tinkled like iron, while far distant hills into the tumult sent an alien sound of melancholy, not unnoticed, while the stars eastward were sparkling clear, and in the west the orange sky of evening died away. Not seldom from the uproar I retired into a silent bay, or sported quickly glanced sideways, leaving the tumultuous throng to cut across the reflex of a star that fled, and flying still before me gleamed upon the grassy plain. And oftentimes, when we had given our bodies to the wind, and all the shadowy banks on either side came sweeping through the darkness, spinning still the rapid line of motion, then at once have I, reclining back upon my heels, stopped short. Yet still the solid eclipse wheeled by me, even as if the earth had rolled with visible motion that I hung around. Behind me did they stretch in solemn train, feebler and feebler, and I stood and watched, till all was tranquil as a dreamless sleep. Once in the stillness of a summer's noon, while I was seated in a rocky cave by the seaside, perusing, so it chanced, the famous history of the errant knight recorded by Cervantes, these same thoughts beset me, and to height unusual rose, while listlessly I sate, and having closed the book, had turned my eyes toward the wide sea. On poetry and geometric truth, and their high privilege of lasting life from all internal injury exempt, I mused. Upon these chiefly, and at length, my senses yielding to the sultry air, sleep seized me, and I passed into a dream. I saw before me stretched a boundless plain of sandy wilderness, all black and void. As I looked around, distress and fear came creeping over me, when at my side, close at my side, an uncouth shape appeared upon a dromedary mounted high. He seemed an Arab of the Bedouin tribes. A lance he bore, and underneath one arm a stone, and in the opposite hand a shell of a surpassing brightness. At the sight much I rejoiced, not doubting but a guide was present, one who with unerring skill would through the desert lead me. And while yet I looked and looked, self-questioned what this fragrance the newcomer carried through the waste could mean. The Arab told me that the stone, to give it in the language of the dream, was Euclid's Elements. And this, said he, is something of more worth. And at the word stretched forth the shell, so beautiful in shape, in color so resplendent, with command that I should hold it to my ear. I did so, and heard that instant in an unknown tongue, which yet I understood, articulate sounds, a loud prophetic blast of harmony, an ode in passion uttered, which foretold destruction to the children of the earth by deluge now at hand. No sooner ceased the song than the Arab, with calm look, declared that all would come to pass of which the voice had given forewarning, and that he himself was going then to bury those two books. The one that held acquaintance with the stars, and wedded soul to soul in purest bond of reason, undisturbed by space or time. The other, that was a god, yea, many gods, had voices more than all the winds, with power to exhilarate the spirit and to soothe through every time the heart of humankind. While this was uttering, strange as it may seem, I wondered not, although I plainly saw the one to be a stone, the other a shell, nor doubted once but that they both were books, having a perfect faith in all that passed. Far stronger now grew the desire I felt to cleave unto this man. But when I prayed to share his enterprise, he hurried on, reckless of me. I followed, not unseen, for oftentimes he cast a backward look, grasping his twofold treasure. Lance in rest he rode, I keeping pace with him. And now he to my fancy had become the knight whose tale Cervantes tells. Yet not the knight. There was an Arab of the desert too. Of these was neither, and was both at once. His countenance meanwhile grew more disturbed, and looking backwards when he looked, mine eyes saw over half the wilderness diffused a bed of glittering light. I asked the cause. It is, said he, the waters of the deep gathering upon us. Quickening then the pace of the unwieldy creature he bestrode, he left me. I called after him aloud. He heeded not, but with his twofold charge still in his grasp, before me full in view, went hurrying o'er the illimitable waste, the fleet waters of a drowning world in chase of him. Whereat I waked in terror, and saw the sea before me, and the book in which I had been reading at my side.
Wow, wasn't that fantastic? All right, well, the Poetry of Wordsworth, read by Sir Cedric Hardwick. Absolutely no copyright infringement intended, and this is purely for educational purposes. So if you like that and you want to hear more, put a comment. What kind of poetry you'd like me to be reading out here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And yes, I do have a preference for Australian and First Nations poetry, of course, here from Australia. All right, lots of love. We'll see you later.